This is Peter, and you're listening to the Night Party Podcast. I hope you enjoy it, because I don't.
That's right. Welcome to another edition of the Night Party Podcast, where we leave it all on the cutting room floor. And with me today, yes, he's back, Antonious, Montana, everybody.
Oh, what's up, dude?
Not much, man. Just hanging out. A lot of stuff is transpired. I know I've had some time off, so if you're listening to the show, it's not like he's been gone or anything. It's just we took a little 10-day separation, and I had a lot of free time to get a lot of stuff done. But no, he ain't going anywhere. Not on my watch. So, Antonious, let me get some plugs out of the way, and then we'll start bullshitting a little bit, all right?
Let's do it.
So, as you know, my 1,000-year war with YouTube continues. So, if you are an iTunes member, the only way you're really going to be able to get this, or at least all the episodes, is at our Patreon, patreon.com/knifepartypod. For only $1, you can get all these episodes ad-free, except for my live reads, but they're funnies, right? So, but also, too, I never promote this, and I think this is a good opportunity to. knifepartypod.podbean.com is not only our app, and it's ad-free, but also you could just go to the website. And I have a nice little layout I set up there recently. So you can get all that there because Apple will not carry us and it's political. It's bullshit. But anyway. So we're also sponsored by Caps and Cork. Remember, if you live in Napa and you're sick of wine, and you live in Vallejo and you're just sick of Vallejo, go to Caps and Cork. It's at 21 Rancho Square in American Canyon, right on the border there. And remember, if you buy 9, you get the 10th free. And I'm talking microbrews, baby. I'm talking not about a Bud Light. I'm talking about stuff you can't find anywhere else. And also, not sponsored by, but check out the movie Caviar. I just did a whole episode on them, and it's an independent film. It's only $2 to rent on Amazon.com. You cannot go wrong, even if it's $2. Dude, think about it. I just saw Evil Dead at a matinee. It was $11, man. That's a lot of money for a matinee. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? Let's see. What else? Oh, by the time you are listening to this, we have hit we have hit 1,000 downloads. So, Antonious.
Yeah.
You've been with me from the thick and thin. I think you came in month 1, I believe.
Just at the tail end of month 1, maybe month 2, something like that.
No, I think it was before month 2.
Okay.
I think you came in like early mid-December. Right?
Right.
So, yeah, you've been with us for a while now. And because we hit 1,000 and you helped me got there, I would like you to pledge allegiance with me and celebrate that we actually made it. A lot of people think we wouldn't be doing 2 episodes a week or more for this long. Oh, speaking of 2 episodes a week or more, on the Patreon, I just set it up I found a bunch of old archives of Slime Wreck Radio, and this is from 2018 when I even have Antonious' first appearance on Slime Wreck Radio. I'm going to be airing those every 2 weeks on our $5 Patreon or more, and it's totally worth it. I have to put it behind a paywall, not because we say a lot of bad things or nothing necessarily, but just it's some juicy content. It's the difference between Skinamax and Playboy. Right. I don't want any future employers to Google me and go, hey, what the fuck is this, dude? So anyway, for our 1,000th download, place your hand over your heart and let's pledge allegiance. Okay.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. We are drive-in mutants. We are not like other people. We are sick. We are disgusting.
I agree with all this so far.
If life had a vomit meter, we'd be off the scale. We
America.
believe in blood, in breasts, and in beasts. We believe in Kung Fu City. As long as one drive-in remains on the planet Earth, we will party like jungle animals. We will boogie till we puke. Heads will roll. The drive-in will never die. Amen.
I felt the need to, we needed to commemorate it somehow, some way, right?
Right.
So you picked out this movie, and I was like, really? When you brought it up, I'm like, really? But then, and I've never seen this movie. I just remember the paranoia, everybody's coming to get me.
yeah.
And I remember, you know what?
It's a great song.
I was just about to say I fucking love that song. I would play it, but even with my segue warning about The Craft, and even though those are covers and parody law and such, that actually made it to YouTube, but it says partially banned.
Oh.
Not like banned or copyright. It said partially.
Interesting.
So I don't know exactly what that means, but either way, we're just going to try to stay away from using hit popular songs from the 90s. And dude, that flagpole schemata or Sigma or whatever was it called?
What?
Yeah, that song, the na 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 na.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that sold this movie.
Did it really?
I think so. I mean, I wanted to fuck, and also too the cool part of the preview where he like rips off the paper cutter.
Yeah,
that was awesome. So we're gonna get in that, but go ahead and tell what we're watching.
So we are watching The Faculty, which was late 90s horror
98.
movie. 98. Yeah, it actually came out Christmas of 98.
Yes. So
Yeah.
technically, this is a Christmas movie, even though it totally takes place in like September or some
Right.
shit. It's anyway. What do you got on this? I got some stuff too, but from now on, it's kind of like this new thing where we spend 2 weeks apart, and then he picks a movie, I pick a movie, and it's kind of our responsibilities to get some facts. But I still do my due diligence to see if I could dig up anything he missed. So what do you got?
Yeah. So it came out Christmas Day. It originally had a budget of like 15 million on there.
That's what I got.
It did like 20 or 12 million opening weekend, which I think is surprising for like a horror movie.
Interesting.
On Christmas.
I got 40 million.
So its total worldwide was 65 million.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just got the happy medium, I guess.
Right. So, I mean, not bad for like a $15 million budget, but not like the greatest.
Let's go back to our Mean Girls math. Mean Girls made $83 million on a budget of $80 million. So this movie crushed it because it did what? That's times 3.5, times 4, some shit like that.
Right.
Yeah. So times 5. So a lot better than it was ranked up to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And you could see every dollar went the way that it should have been. This movie does not look like a $15 million movie at all.
No, it definitely feels like it was a higher budget for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay, so what else you got?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as like ranking goes, percentage, what would you give it? Because it did not honestly do great on Rotten Tomatoes.
RT gave it a 79, but the audience gave it a 55.
Right, and originally RT actually had it at 55 as well.
And I think it's because they do a recent. If you were certified as a real ranker, even today, you could rank a movie and start bumping it up. So,
okay.
So yeah, but a 55 audience score?
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, what the fuck, dude? You know what you're getting into. It's a teen movie with monsters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand what you're expecting here. You know?
I'm not expecting this to be like Aliens or The Abyss or something like that.
Exactly.
Like,
It's funny you brought up The Abyss.
I mean, most notably though, it had an amazing like rock star cast.
It does.
For this movie. It's ridiculous. I mean, there's like Josh Hartnett.
But you got to remember,
Elijah
this is like
Wood,
their first few movies. These guys weren't like household names yet.
True.
Like Josh Hartnett, I think was just in She's All That before this, and I think that was Hartnett, right?
No,
that was Freddie Prinze.
Yeah, that was Freddie Prinze.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was like Elijah Wood, Usher. This was Usher's first movie.
Did you know that
there?
he actually replaced Stan on the cover of the poster?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he came out with his first album, you know, the one where he's looking up and it's all a black background. And it was all over like TRL because it was at the time where, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this, but MTV stopped playing videos around 96, 97. No, probably like 96. And then they just had TRL Live, and then they just kind of play snippets of movies, and then they had a bunch of like reality shows and shit like, or snippets of music videos rather.
Right.
Unless it was like something like Puff Daddy doing Candy with Mariah Carey. Then they'd play the whole thing, but they never really played it. And then Usher's album like broke, and they actually did play like start to finish Usher, songs by Usher. And he was skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And this was his first movie. I do have that written down, but they put him on the poster, but he didn't even have a main role, and he's not really even a part of the main crew.
No, not at all. Like, he is definitely a side character in this movie. So that's interesting that they decided to use him for the poster.
Oh, yeah. We kind of glossed over this. What would you give this on the Evergreen Tomato scale?
Honestly, I would probably give it like a 75.
Really?
On there? Yeah.
I was surprisingly, and when you, like I said, when you first brought up this movie, I'm like, really? Dude, I'm giving this, like, I kind of wish I would have bought it and not rented it. I'm giving this an 82.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I really enjoyed this fucking movie.
Yeah.
I really did, because I think the reason why I liked it so much is I was expecting like Scream Part 3. You know, like.
Okay.
You know, I wasn't, and I wasn't expecting because this came out around actually this came out right after Scream, like a year later, and I was, and then a glut of movies came out. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer. There were so many like horror teen movies that came out. This revitalized the teen horror genre.
Right.
And even Freddy vs. Jason. I love that movie. It put money back in the pockets of movie theaters with an agenda to make a really good teen horror movie that we haven't seen since the slasher 80s. And so I was expecting like, dude, this late 90s is probably going to be some fucking dumb shit, right? No, I really, really like this movie. Like more than I thought I was going to like it. A lot more than I thought I was going to like it. So I'm giving it an 82 because it was a pleasant fucking surprise. It was like when you put in a pot pie and you like, it's $2 or whatever, and it's a banquet. And then you're like, shit, dude, I really haven't had a pot pie in a while. This is good. So this is a pot pie movie. I don't know. It's the only simile I can come up with, dude.
That's awesome.
Okay, so speaking of all-star cast, who else is it? I know there's, you forgot about BB Newirth.
BB Newirth. No, I hadn't gotten to her yet.
Oh, my bad. Keep going.
No, yeah, BB Newirth, yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
And she was in Frasier as well as his ex-wife.
Yeah. She was hot as shit, too. She was a nude model and did a lot of Broadway.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember when the internet, I had a crush on her when I was like 17, 18 and 19, for whatever reason on Nick at Night. I don't know if you remember Nick at Night.
Yeah,
right? Of
course.
Yeah, so they would air like 2 episodes of Cheers or 3 at around 11. Okay. And I remember always watching it at my friend Josh's house, and we saw episode 1 all the way to the finale. And every time she'd walk in the room, dude, we'd look at each other and go, would. Because, I mean, she was like a 35-year-old goth chick. I mean.
Right. Yeah, definitely all about that for sure. She has like the kind of Betty Page.
Betty Page meets Elaine.
Movie. Yeah, okay.
That's the only way I could describe it.
Damn.
So
yeah.
who else we got?
Dude, so, I mean, we got like Famke Jensen is in this one. Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart's in this fucking film.
Yeah, and he has a pretty good role in it as well.
I really liked his character so much, especially during his heel turn. You're like, Jon Stewart's got chops.
Right?
I know.
I did
Like,
not
who would have
see that
known?
coming.
I know. I didn't see it coming either.
Another good one is Robert Patrick,
Thank you.
who played T-1000.
And he is as equally as terrifying in this movie.
Well, and they did a little play on that too. So Jon Stewart's character's name is actually Professor Edward Furlong.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I have that written down, dude. That is such a good and it's because of the direction, and we'll get to that in a minute. All right, who else we got?
There's like Danny Masterson is in this. He was on that 70s show and The Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cool dude.
Yes.
There's Salma Hayek plays the school nurse in this movie.
And this was right off the heels of Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn, right.
More
And
on that in a
Desperado.
second. Yeah, more on that in a second. And who is the other teacher? The really hot teacher, the one that looks all mousy in the beginning with the glasses.
That's Famke Jensen.
Oh, okay,
Miss
okay.
Burt.
My
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
So let's talk about who. Oh, and also let's talk about who wasn't in this movie but was originally cast.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So the outsider girl, the blonde.
Mhm.
Do you know her name? Because I've never seen her in a movie. I've probably seen her in a movie since, but not in a lead role.
I didn't write it down, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I was the same way where I really didn't know. I was trying to place her, and I know I've seen her in a movie or shows. I think maybe she was in like Dawson, or she was in like Buffy or something.
Okay, yeah.
She was in those kind of roles, and but she was never in like a lead role, and here she kind of is. But she was originally going to be played by Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh,
Yeah, she was
okay.
going to play Mary Beth, and then also Gillian Anderson
Oh.
was going to play Principal Drake from
okay.
X-Files.
Right. I don't know. I think BB was definitely a better option with that one.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they're both hot as shit, but BB is more stoic and robotic. That I think it worked. In fact, well, as is Jason Patrick. So
Yeah.
Now, the cat also too. Veruca Ball. What's her name? The craft girl. Why is she?
Veruca Balk?
Yes, thank you. Oh, did you know that we must have tapped into like the great magnet, as I say, when we released the craft episode that came out on her birthday.
Oh, that's
We didn't even do
dope.
that on purpose.
Yeah.
Is that weird?
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Go us.
Yeah,
Okay.
go. Yeah. I mean, we planned to do that. She was supposed to play the goth chick in this movie. And
Oh, yeah.
I think-
okay.
And I think she said no to it because she was doing something else. I don't want to say it was Almost Famous, but I want to say it was Almost Famous. But she was doing another. No, Almost Famous came out like the next year, I think. But she didn't want to be typecast,
Right.
so she said no to it. Plus, how could you top her character in The Craft is perfect, right? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And you don't want to be that. You're the strange kid in high school for like the rest of your career. You know, I mean, there's only a few people that got out of that typecast situation. Like for instance, fucking Keanu Reeves. We were just
Keanu
talking
Reeves,
about,
yeah.
you know, about
John Wick.
and everything else, and like how much of a sex symbol and like a actor he is now, and everything else. But for the longest time, including Dracula, everyone's like, "Hey, dude, it's me."
Yeah.
You know. Did you know
No.
that every character in casting was chosen to replace one of the characters from The Breakfast Club?
What? Okay.
Think about
That
it. You
kinda
got
makes sense.
you got your jock,
Yep.
okay? You got your kind of like stoner bully guy who's
Yeah.
smarter than you think he is. You got your weird girl.
Okay.
You got your cheerleader,
Yep.
and then you kind of just have the odd in between one, except for Mary Beth,
Mm-hmm.
who is so every character in this movie is purposefully the main characters rather are purposely based off of and then you have your nerd,
Yeah.
purposely based off of the Breakfast Club,
Okay.
which is pretty interesting,
I kinda-
isn't it?
Like I see that. Excuse me, but I also
There's
they
like a
have kinda
Reddit
like
thread on this too.
a dual personality. Because you have like the cheerleader, but she's also like the smart like journalist.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, they even say in the beginning she's a cheerleader, and then they just kind of dump that subplot because you never even seen her cheerleader outfit
At all. Like, she doesn't go to the football games or anything.
Because I
like,
wrote down when I was taking notes, head cheerleader because she's dating the jock, and I just assumed. And then they don't touch upon it again, except for when he's about to leave, and she goes, the head cheerleader can't be dating a bonehead trying to get... Anyway, we'll get to that. So I thought that was very interesting. Let's see. This was actually written in 1990.
Yeah. And it had to be kind of rewritten a couple of times as well.
So it was called The Feelers originally.
Oh, I was just going to say that one. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm stealing your thunder.
It's good. It's
stealing
good.
your thunder.
Did you know that Femke has never actually watched the movie? She's never seen the movie.
You know, I don't know if it's either Brad Pitt said like the only movie he's ever seen of his own was Fight Club because he was forced to do the commentary, the DVD commentary.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just him. There's a lot of actors that...
That's what I've heard about Johnny Depp as well. He will not watch
one of his movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest with you, dude, I only listen to our podcast after we do it to make sure that everything kind of recorded correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's about it. Like, unless I'm going through old episodes, but I kind of hate listening myself because it makes me go, oh, that kind of sucks. I should take it down. But I mean, with 1,000 downloads, who can go wrong?
Yeah. So the football team that they used in the movie was an actual high school football team. And so this movie was filmed in Texas. It takes place in Ohio, but it's in Texas.
Got that?
So it was an actual Texas high school football team. And the people
God
in the
bless
stands were basically the townspeople.
That's amazing.
From that high school. Yeah.
So this movie was written in 1990, and it sat on the shelf for a long time. And I don't know if it was because of location filming, but Miramax bought it, and it just kind of sat in the shelf, right?
Right.
And then Scream came out. And when Scream came out, they're like, oh, this is going to revitalize, what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
And then they're like, we need to find a director to do this. Now, Miramax, as you know, came out with Desperado, 1994, I believe?
That sounds about right.
Late 93, yeah, like 93, 94, something like that. And then Dusk Till Dawn came out.
Right.
And I did not know Robert Rodriguez directed this film.
Yeah, I totally forget about that myself.
And I think that's why I liked it so much, because there's a lot of practical effects. There's obviously there's some things that are too big not to,
Right.
But for the most part, all the effects are great. There's like 2 effects that I'm like, oh. But yeah, so Miramax obviously tied to Rodriguez and Tarantino and the Clerks guy, fucking forgot his name. What?
Kevin Smith.
Thank you. And they kind of were, and I'm not saying anything about the owner, but they were kind of incestual where they'd use kind of the same actors a lot, use the same directors a lot.
Right.
And, so hence why there's a bunch of people in here that Rodriguez worked with in the past, but also too, like the Edward Furlong thing, Robert Rodriguez is a film nut.
Yeah.
Just like we are, just like Tarantino is. And there's a lot of inside jokes in this movie. So anyway, anything else before we listen to the trailer?
Well, actually, one of those inside jokes was when Robert Patrick, the coach, is talking with Elijah Wood's character about running. And Elijah Wood is like, oh, you should only run
if
when
someone's chased.
And coach is like, yeah, I like that.
And he goes, there might be a spot on my team for you, son. And he gives him like that kind of up jaw thing, like, there's just so much T-1000 nod to this.
Right.
Who, by the way, is still one of the best villains of all time.
Oh, 100%.
He's in my top 10. In fact, I after watching the next movie we're going to cover, I think we need to do part 2 of the top 10 villains of all time, but it'll be 11 through 20. And
okay.
Now we already covered him, but we haven't covered him in this movie. So he might be on it. I mean, I was really surprised when you picked this, but I was really happy you picked it just because all these little nuggets, if you were to just show this to somebody and they didn't know a lot about horror movies, they'd go, yeah, it was pretty good. But if you really like horror movies, they're like, oh, I see what you did there, movie.
Right.
I see what you did, you son of a bitch. You know, that kind of thing. All right, so should we play the trailer and fuck this pig? Let's do it. All right, so here it goes.
From Kevin Williamson, the writer of Scream and Scream 2. From Robert Rodriguez, the director of From Dusk Till Dawn, comes a new science fiction thriller.
No more pencils, no more books, no more teachers' dirty looks.
The students at Harrington High have always suspected their teachers were from another planet.
Is this gonna be on the test?
This is the test.
This time, they're right. Now, these 6 students won't just question authority. They'll have to destroy it. Critics are calling it hip and scary. A thrilling ride from beginning to end. The Faculty.
Please report to the principal's office.
We also failed to mention that this whole soundtrack, just like The Craft, is covers of songs that are related to school, whereas Craft, it's all kind of related to, stuff that kind of was counterculture.
Right.
Like you have, All in All, we're just another dick with no balls, by the Stink Floyd. They have that. You have School's Out. There's a couple of songs in here, or like the majority of the soundtrack. They even did music videos with Robert Patrick.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which, I mean, they didn't air because, remember, previously said MTV, stopped caring at a certain point. So let's go ahead and get this going. Oh, by the way, the soundtrack in this is fucking amazing. Not the soundtrack with the music. I mean, the score is fabulous. And I found a really good copy of it. Throw it in the background. Here we go. So we're at football practice, right? And we don't know the coach's name, so I just wrote C1000. I thought it was appropriate, right? And he's all pissed off, He's like, "You fuckers, we're gonna play," and they have a rival team.
Yeah,
and it's the only team that they have a problem with, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's really frustrated. He's flipping over the bench with a Gatorade on it and everything else. And then all of a sudden there's a silhouette that, he goes, "Get off my field and come back tomorrow and actually care like you mean it." And then when he does that, we see a shadow kind of looming over him and he goes, "This better be fucking important." And this guy curses like a sailor.
Oh, yeah.
Which I like to see that in today's society. I think that's why our generation is just better than because nowadays, apparently there's cards you can hold up, which means you're being too aggressive to the coach.
What?
Yeah, same thing with boot camp.
That's weird.
It sucks.
I don't believe that at all. I mean, it's probably true, but I don't want to believe it.
You don't want to believe it.
Yeah,
I know. You know what? Stranger than fiction and sadder than reality. Whoa! I should write that shit down. God, man, some of the shit that comes out of my...
You recorded it. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. Some of the shit that comes out of my mouth is brilliant and will get people fired. Return of the Jedi episode. Anyway, so... now we see a faculty meeting and, they're going around and it's "Oh, sorry, we can't afford new computers. Oh, sorry, we can't afford a new science lab. Sorry, we can't." And then someone pipes up and they're like, "But the football team is getting everything." And then, and this is the principal. She goes, "Yes, they're going to get new pads and new uniforms and new helmets and new jock straps because it's the it's the only thing that keeps the school afloat is the football team. When they play, the whole town comes out, and that's all our income because apparently this school isn't funded very much. But whenever they throw a football game, that's where they get all their funding from."
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, Midwest town, it's all about football, for sure.
Yeah, and all their scholarships come from the football as well.
Right.
So you have to be a very, very active nerd in order to even have a shot at anything, right? Mm-hmm. So all the able-bodied students want on this football team, except for a couple, and we're going to touch on them in a second. So yes, anyway, it's getting late after this meeting, and BB Newirth's character, we don't know her name yet.
Right.
So she's, locking up and everything else, and, she forgets her keys, and she's like, shit, well, I'm going to go back inside, right? And then all of a sudden, Coach Williams, the C-1000, should I just call him C-1000?
C-1000.
Okay, cool. So the C-1000 surprises her, right? And then she's like, in her office, the principal's office, and she's going through her drawers, and she's like, you scared me, like, what the hell? And he goes, what are you doing here still? And he's like, oh, I needed a pencil. And then, he's, okay, but...
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Very rapey vibe.
Oh, 100%, dude.
And she's kind of, like, what is the meaning of this kind of thing?
Right.
And he goes, I just really need a pencil. And so finally she is, okay, whatever. Here's your fucking pencil. Get the fuck out. And then he grabs her hand and stabs her through it.
Oh.
And it's right then I was like, okay, all right, movie. I'm interested. Now, remember, I came in this movie going, oh, this is going to be just another teen movie. Da, da, da. And when that happened, I'm like, all right, I like that we're already in the midst of it. Like when the advertisement said, this is a thrill ride, it really is. This movie does not take a break.
Yeah, once it gets going, it just keeps going.
And it starts going right away.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like
we're like 5 minutes in, and here we go.
Exactly. Anyway, her name is, anyway, he surprises her. He stabs through the hand through a pencil, right? And this is Miss Drake. She tries to escape, but she's locked in because the lock that she used is like a padlock that goes around the doors.
Right.
Now, she forgot her keys. Someone locked it from the outside.
Yep.
Right? And that's kind of weird. Now, when I first watched this, I was kind of just like looking at the C-1000 going, oh man, that's badass. And I didn't really realize it till just now reading my notes. I'm like, oh yeah. How did she get locked in? So anyway, because I assumed she was looking for her car keys, and she was, but apparently her car keys don't have the outside lock keys on it because they were taken from her. Because remember, with a padlock, you don't need to lock it; you click it,
and it's good.
Yeah. So she doesn't have them, right? So she's locked in, and that's when we hear like, Miss Drake, report to the principal's office, please. And dude, I'm not gonna say the T-1000 because he is scarier. But this guy's more menacing.
Yeah.
Because he has a personality about him that is just, he's going to do something evil, but then sometimes he's nice, and you're like, what?
You're right. Like, what's he planning? What's he doing?
Yeah, there's ulterior motives here, So she's locked in, right? So then she finds her keys, and then, but she's locked in. And then we see Miss Olsen, who is like the mousy character who wanted her, to get the computers.
Right.
And she's, there's like a little gap where they could see each other, Miss Drake and Miss Olsen.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Olsen's like, I don't have the keys. And she's like, oh, I need to go get them, and then she goes, just watch me, stay with me while I go find them, And then she gets out like just in the middle of time. And then just like how the C-1000 stabs her through the hand and goes, I always wanted to do that. Well, she stabs him and says, I always wanted to do that. Now, it escapes me, but that quote is from another movie.
Really?
If you could think of it before the end, that would be amazing. But I know someone right now is screaming at their car stereo going, you fucking idiot, you don't remember. So we might have to do an addendum later, but that I always wanted to do that. I swear to God, it is in a movie that came out in the 80s or 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to Google it, but I was so invested in the movie. I'm like, I'm just going to let it play.
Yeah.
I thought I would think about it, but so anyway, we see it's the next day. Oh yeah, by the way, she stabs her with scissors, which for whatever reason, stabbing somebody with scissors to me just seems eviler than a knife because it's more improvised.
Right.
And like a pencil and scissors, it's so like all the weapons that we see in here
are
school related.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all like pens, pencil, scissors, a cutter. Like we'll get into that later, right? So it's the next day, right? And we see Zeke, Freddie Prinze's character, or Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
They just look so much alike, and they came out at the wrong time. I think Josh Hartnett's a way better actor, though, because after seeing this and after seeing 30 Days a Night, I used to discredit the guy. But looking back, the problem about him is he has a baby face.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to take him serious with a baby face.
Yeah, exactly. So because of his baby face, it kind of just it makes him less believable, and also he's very stoic. Like he kind of always looks like he's thinking about something stupid. I don't. Does that make any sense to you?
I kind of get that. Yeah.
He always seems like. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but he's got like a blank look on his face, like he just got punched in the head or something.
He's like thinking really hard all the time.
But they make him very, very like a genius character in this. So we see him come in. He's flying in this GTO, which is a badass car.
Very much so.
Yeah. I mean, like the whole time I was watching this, I was like, damn, like, fuck, man. And the only bad thing about it is I'm pretty sure it's an automatic, which kind of made me sad.
Just because they didn't have the scene like actually showing him shift?
Oh, no, there is a scene where you see him shift.
Oh, okay.
But he just puts in R, and it kind of made me mad. Oh. So anyway, he comes flying in, right? And there's even a like car accident, and you just see like even though this is supposed to be Ohio, it seems like East LA, how even though they're all like snowy white, they just seem very like hormonal and very just like thrashy and hate each other kind of thing. And
the kids are brutal. Like you pass by this one chick and she's got like neck tattoos, and it's like she's like 16. Like what is going on here?
All the kids are smoking cigarettes,
right?
So anyway, Zeke comes in and he opens up like his trunk and he grabs a bunch of pens and puts them in his pocket. And I didn't even write that note down at first because I'm like, okay, maybe he's got like OCD or whatever. We're just learning the characters. And then another kid, Casey, Elijah Wood's character, he gets off the bus and immediately just gets like fucking elbowed for no reason.
Right.
And then the goth chick walks by. Her name is Stokey. And she's like snide, like, hey, Casey, just, like doing your shit again. Or, just like, you're getting picked on again. Like, no big deal. Like, and we find out she's kind of an outsider too. And I actually thought that they were going to develop a relationship.
I did at first too, yeah.
Yeah, because they seem like they have a lot of common ground. Anyway, like you would think like right when that happens, I thought she would help him up and be like, just, don't worry about those jock douchebags or something. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, the cliche kind of thing.
Yeah, and I really did kind of want that to happen, but it didn't. I mean, but then again, that's kind of why this movie is cool, is it's not everything is what it seems.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Robert Rodriguez, for changing the genre, but yet keeping it as it is. So then we see our head. I wrote down cheerleader and then crossed it off and then wrote editor-in-chief because she doesn't even say she's a cheerleader. You just assume that because she's dating the jock guy. Her name's Delilah, right? And we see her with her boyfriend, Stan, who is like the head quarterback. He's got his varsity jacket on and all this other stuff, right?
Yep.
And then enter in Mary Beth. Mary Beth is the biggest, whitest, blonde hair snowflake girl. And she's like nice to everybody. She goes, where's homeroom? And she's got the accent.
Right, because she's from like Atlanta or something like that, right?
But Atlanta doesn't have that kind of an accent. I'm just saying she has a South Georgia accent. She doesn't have an Atlanta accent. I don't know if you picked up on that because my favorite accent on a girl is, the band Rasputina?
No.
You've never heard of Rasputina?
I don't think I have, no.
Coming from a music guy, I'm really shocked. Anyway, they're like this. Have you ever heard of Louisiana Gothic?
Yeah.
They're one of the first ever musical groups that's Louisiana Gothic.
Okay.
It's three girls, and they all play cello, and it's very, like Apocalyptica ripped them off.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, but her accent is like the hottest. Her name is Morlora Krieger. Anyway, her accent, like I fell in love with that accent, like that South.
Wow.
It's just so sexy. This girl tries to do it, but she's from Atlanta, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's a different. I don't know. I just picked that out. Just a little thing. So Zeke now meets up with a couple of kids. Now, one of the kids, one of the boys that buys off him, is the dude from that 70s show.
Danny Masterson.
Yeah, there you go. Danny Masturbator's son. And it threw me because I'm like, Hyde usually wears glasses.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
you don't really get it. Like, this is the first time we actually get to see his face, at least if you're just a casual, because like I don't follow him. Did you know he got canceled?
He did, unfortunately.
Do you know why?
It was never founded, but he did get canceled.
Because I think like the girl was 19 and said that they are partying and didn't consent at like a couple of days after or some shit.
It was like a staff member from the set of the ranch that apparently said he was being unprofessional, if you will.
Well, because I got canceled for the same reason, Masturbatorson, my heart goes out to you. That being said, I am also a feminist. Don't fuck with girls if they say no, okay?
Yeah.
Just relax. Just chill. There's other girls out there. I mean, there's 8 billion people in the world, and about...
We're like over 9 billion now.
Damn. Well,
There's
okay.
even more ladies.
Exactly. That means there's 5.5 because, girls are 55% of the population.
Right.
It's like 5.5 billion chicks out there. Now, a lot of them are ugly, but they need love too. Hey, I said they need love too. Let's be honest. No one wants to F a 10. We all want to F 2 7s at the same time. Okay, moving on. That was pretty sexist. I still claim feminism, girl power. So anyway, he and another boy come up to Zeke's trunk of his GTO. Oh, by the way, this guy triple parks like a cock. He parks like a hashtag. He doesn't even park like in a lane. And of course, he has to emergency brake park.
Yeah.
So he sells fake IDs and drugs and condoms and all this other, like basically shit you're either embarrassed to buy or cannot get or just illegal paraphernalia out of his trunk, right? And we see him like, selling these fake IDs and they're in the bathroom. And meanwhile, when they're in the bathroom, we see Elijah Wood's character and he's nursing a broken nose. We're getting character establishment here.
He's like crying in the disabled stall in there. Yeah.
Well, who hasn't? You haven't worked at Toys R Us on Christmas Eve, or else you know the feeling of crying in it.
I'm happy I did not get that job.
Exactly. We used to call it the crying room.
Yeah.
Zach, you need to clean the crying room? Oh, no, someone had diarrhea again. Okay. So he sells his drugs, though, in kind of a smart but stupid way. He sells them in those, like, buy 50 at Staples for like $3 pens, the ones that are hexagonal and clear and got the blue tops.
Classic, like, Bic pen.
Yeah. I don't even think they're Bic pens. I think they're the Papermates. Because remember, Bic pens were the blue ones that were kind of a solid color. These are the see-through ones we can actually see the ink.
Yeah.
But he takes out the ink and he fills them full of this stuff. He calls it scat?
Scat, yeah, exactly.
And we don't know what scat is, but he's like, be easy on it, boys. This will get you flying. So I thought it was like a narcotic at first.
Right.
But when he said flying, I'm like, maybe it's like powdered LSD. Like I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I figured, like a meth cocaine blend thing going on. But they don't really tell you what's up till way later.
They don't dive into it very much. So anyway, after that, we're at the Falcone Lounge, right? And the C-1000 there, and he's just looking out the window at the football field, and he's slamming water just over and over. We have these water's going to be a big thing in this movie. I don't know if you noticed, but as the tension builds, you see more and more water. Not just them drinking water, but like in the foreground, you'll see someone delivering like in a hand truck water, or you'll see a water truck drive by, and it's kind of cool because it's kind of like the doomsday clock. The more water there is, the more bad shit's going to happen. And he's just sitting out there, just like, did you notice that?
I did not. I noticed like people bringing in water, but I didn't notice it was happening more frequently.
Yeah, it does. So at first you see, a couple of kids holding water bottles, and then at the end, like every other kid is holding a water bottle. And also you'll see like it's not an Alhambra truck, it's Dasani. You'll see it like drive by, and then it's just like a truck, and then after a while you see it's like a bigger truck, and then you'll see like it being moved in hand trucks and such.
And I did notice like the water bottles, they're like at first they're the normal size,
and they get
and
they're
then
like
they're
the 32
like
ounces.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Zeke is all deep and shit in class, not Delilah. Who is it? The teacher with the glasses, the one that's super mousy and hot.
Miss Burke.
Miss Burke, thank you.
Yeah.
And she's like, does anyone know what this fucking book's about? And then Zeke raises his hand and makes a joke. And then she goes, okay, Zeke, it's not really that. And then he just goes on this diatribe about like what isolation really means and how being stranded on a desert island isn't actually about being stranded on a desert. And so we noticed that Zeke's a smart guy. He just doesn't apply himself.
Right.
Is kind of what they're alluding to, right? And now Delilah, scolds him for this afterward. Oh, no. Stan is quitting football. He goes over to Delilah and he's like, I need to talk to you. And he goes, I quit. I'm quitting football. And she's like, why? And he tells her that he's tired of being judged on his merit of being a physical athlete.
Right.
And he wants to be known for his brain, and he will have more time to hit the books. And she says to him, I'm the head cheerleader. You're the head quarterback. That's just the way things work.
Right.
I'm not going to date a D+ student. It's just not the way politics work. And in fact, Delilah also, she's very judgmental. She actually kind of breaks down everybody.
Right.
At first, kind of going, here's the rules of high school. Here's your roles. Fucking be your role. Know your role and shut your mouth, as The Rock would say. So Stan is in his history class, right? And then we see Mr. Tate. And Mr. Tate's a drunk. He always has a flask on him. He pours it in his coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, did you have a teacher like Mr.? I had one. His name was Mr. Love.
Oh, my God.
That was his name, dude.
That was not his legal name.
That was his legal name.
He changed it.
No, Lovee.
Oh, that's terrible.
And he was a history teacher.
Okay.
And he really liked the Beatles, but he would always put Kahlua in his coffee. It'd be like half Kahlua, half normal.
Yeah.
Because you could smell it.
I've had a few teachers over the years that enjoyed flavorings in their coffee, if you will. Coffery?
I misspeak all the time, dude. I'm just calling you out a little bit. Have you ever drank on the job? You could be honest, dude.
Not like on the job, but I'll have beers on lunch every now and again.
See, I don't really think that's a big deal because you're eating.
Right.
But the shitty thing about drinking on the job, because I've done it, and it's a weird kind of slippery slope where you're like, you know what, we're on break, it's not a big deal, and then it turns into a thing where it becomes every break.
Yeah, I couldn't do that,
and your breaks get more and more frequent.
Yeah, I can't afford to do that. Yeah,
I'm just saying, if you're listening to this, even if I'm a big drinker, just make sure you keep your professional life professional, because it was really easy to slip into it. I remember when I worked with you at the Hobby Lobby, there was a certain person that was like, come on, let's go get a beer, because we worked in a plaza where there was, like a Buffalo Wild Wings and stuff like that. And it's very easy to go that lunch, instead of just having a beer, it's a big beer and then another afterward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, this person you're having beers with is going through your backpack and stealing your medications, because that fucking happened.
Yeah.
And they might just so happen to be your ex-drummer who would come to your band practice with a pistol in his belt.
Yeah, because that's definitely what you need.
Exactly.
When you're playing music, is to have a
pistol.
Yeah.
I mean, we were playing gigs in Vallejo, so I mean, So anyway, Mr. Tate's there, and he's not drunk, but he's definitely a little slurry.
Right.
And Stan corrects him on, because he's like, let's turn to this chapter and whatever. And then Stan's like, actually, we already did that. Now, because remember, Stan's trying to apply himself as a student. And Mary Beth, tries to talk to Stokey, sits by him. And this is like after class, like out of recess. And she goes over to Stokey and she's like, hi, what's your name? And I just moved here. And then Stokey's like, why the fuck are you talking to me?
Right.
And she says, because I just got here and I don't have any friends, and it looks like you don't either. Oh. And she's a hot blonde. All she had to do was wait a week and spread her legs, and she'd have the whole football team. What? I'm just saying. I'm not saying she's a slut, and I'm not slut shaming. All I'm saying is I know how the male brain works.
True.
Okay? There's a lot of testosterone on that football field. She could have her pick. She could have had Usher. Because he make the booty go.
Oh,
I had to.
you had to. Yeah,
I had to. But Delilah interrupts and she's like, oh, why are you talking to this lesbian? Is she your type? Da, da, da. And she's like, she's such a lesbian and a lesbian. You know, kind of like, it reminded me of, speaking of which, Mean Girls, but she's like, I'm such a lesbian. And also she's reading a book. We find out that she's actually a science fiction book nerd.
yeah.
You know, she's really into science fiction novels. And it's funny because Delilah, when she asks what she's reading, she has like knowledge of it, which is kind of odd.
Right. You wouldn't expect her to know that.
Exactly. Anyway, so we cut back to Casey. Now, Casey's the loner. Remember, this is the Elijah Wood character. He's like a super nerd. He's probably, out of everybody, the only person that's going to get a scholarship outside of football. And seeing how Stan's concentrating his studies and not football anymore, I think that Stan kind of like, I'm not going to say idolizes, but kind of is, I would like to be more of like a Casey rather than, you know, a jock douchebag.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's taking his lunch, and because he's such a loner, he's eating his lunch on the bleachers alone. And then we see the C-1000, you know, and he's like, hey, what are you doing here? I know you. What's your name? And he's like, my name's Casey. And he goes, yeah. Oh, and by the way, he always has a camera around his neck starting from this scene on. He
Right.
didn't have one earlier, but now he has one on. And he's like, well, you know what? Lunch's almost over. Why don't you get off my field? And he's like, yes, sir. And then tell him the running part, because you brought that up and I totally forgot about it. The T-1000 joke.
Oh yeah. So the coach is like, hey, like da da da, like I've seen you running away from people, you know. Why don't you come and play for the team? You're a good
Because he's
runner.
fast as shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And Elijah Wood's character Casey is like, well, I only believe in running when you're being chased. And the C-1000 gets a kind of like
like
sinister look. Yeah. And he's just like, I like that. Yeah.
Now, the C-1000 sneaks up on him, Coach Williams, because Elijah Wood is on the field and he bends down and picks up something. And I think that's what got his attention, because he's like, what, you know. Anyway, so then he kind of scampers off. He doesn't run, but he doesn't walk. It's definitely a scamp. Right?
it was almost a skip.
It was almost a skip, but more of like, I'm scared skip. You know, like when you're walking on Georgia Street in Vallejo and it's like past 9 o'clock. Anyway, so after that, he goes to his science class with Mr. Edward Furlong,
Yeah.
played by Jon Stewart, right? And he goes, you know, Mr. Furlong, I found this, you know, and it looks like a pupa, like
Right.
Like
yeah.
if you ever played Pokemon, it looks like a Menopod.
Oh, yeah.
You know when
Okay.
Caterpie evolves? So, and he's like, what
I
the
think
hell?
it more looks like Weedle's evolution.
Kakuna?
Kakuna.
There you go. How do I know this? I also had no friends in high school. Except for those cholasas. Oh my God, cholasas. Dude. For my birthday, I just want my wife to put on that brown lipstick and get some dicky shorts with some suspenders. Fucking make my day, dude. Bangs. Oh, fuck. Even if it's a wig, I don't even care. Fucking knock that shit right off out of sweat and thrust. So, remember, girl power, feminism. So he brings it to him, right? And they're examining it. And it's underneath a microscope, and he gets an X-Acto knife and is kind of looking through it, and they're examining it, you know. And it's a form of mollusk. So they didn't say that, but what mollusk is a invertebrate that is a sea life form. Examples would be a sea slug, a sea cucumber, more notably an octopus, a squid, all that stuff, right? Mollusks also have a very high intelligence for how small their brain is, which is pretty crazy. You know, like
That's pretty dope. Okay.
octopuses have problem-solving intelligence. If you lock their aquarium and you put a key in there, they'll figure out how to get out of it.
They will, yeah.
Which is crazy. I saw some footage of an octopus, and he was in an aquarium with a bunch of, and then there were separate aquariums with other fish. Fucker snuck out, ate them all, like out of a time lapse of like a month, just one by
Wow.
one. Yeah, and he would crawl back in and act like nothing happened.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, dude, anything with tentacles scares the shit out of me too. And they could change color and disguise, and they could even change their texture pattern.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, like they could look like a rock and actually make their skin look like rocky. We're not talking about Predator. We're talking about like that looks like a fucking like not even like a chameleon. You know, they could be smooth and just look like the bottom of the ocean if they wanted to. They're fucking nuts.
That's dope.
It is dope. Anyway, so it looks like a mollusk and everything else like that. But then all of a sudden Zeke comes in and he's like, bump over. And the fucker knows like more than both, the nerd kid and the professor. He's like,
somehow, yeah.
like this guy's a genius, right? He just like, I get he's deep. He just doesn't apply himself. And then they decide, because it's dried out and usually mollusks react in water, right? So they put it in, they accidentally spill some water on it and it starts moving around. It like activates, right? So then they put it in like this aquarium, and all of a sudden it reacts, and it kind of does this lionfish thing where it's got these wing-like, and you know what it reminded me of?
Like really thin,
yeah,
like hairs,
like yeah,
sort of thing. Yeah,
it reminded me of like the angels in Diablo, how they have those like wings that are kind of like glowing tendrils because they're red, and before you know it, it splits into two.
Yeah.
It like
It took like 30 seconds. Like,
yeah, like right away. And it duplicates. So then Eddie Furlong, not, hey, bro, vaya con Dios. No, we're talking about Jon Stewart, Eddie Furlong, puts his hand in and it bites him.
right.
And he's pretty dramatic about it. At first, he's like, motherfucker has teeth, and then everyone looks at him and he goes, okay, keep this between us. We're going to send it to the university.
Yep.
Get us some funding, but shh, silence. Okay. So Stan then goes to Coach Williams, the C-1000, and he, says, hey, I got to quit the team. I got to study, And it's creepy because instead of being upset, he goes, you're not mad? You're not going to dress me down? He goes, why would I be mad that my star quarterback on the biggest game of the year is quitting? And he just looks at him and he
He's
goes,
just like stone faced.
and then he smiles and goes, go on, boy. And at this point of the movie, I mean, you've seen the movie before, right?
Right.
I knew something was up with him, obviously, because he stabbed the chick in the hand. But having not seen that, I thought it was kind of like tough love, like I'm being so sarcastic kind of thing. But then after seeing this movie, he's like, I'm going to get you eventually, so it doesn't even matter.
Right.
That's kind of what I thought about it. Like, oh, this just makes you a little bit harder to get.
Yeah, like you're still going to be one of us eventually.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. So then Stan he walks in and we see Elijah Wood's character, Casey. He's getting pushed around at the locker room, and then Stan comes in. He's like, hey, man, leave him alone. And then this is by Usher's character. And he's like, yeah, man, we're going to, they slap hands. We're going to be fucking great at the game. And no one knows he's quitting except for, Delilah and the coach. Yeah. And, Eli's character goes like, it must be awesome being you. And he goes, you have no idea. So then he hits the showers, and this is the fucking creepiest scene.
Super weird.
You want to take this one over? Because, dude, I had to rewind this. You know what it reminded me of?
What?
And I think it may have paid homage to it. It reminded me of the scene in The Shining.
Oh, the bathtub scene.
Yeah. Didn't you get like kind of shades of that?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
So this is Mrs. Bremmel?
Brummel, I believe.
She follows Stan into like the shower room.
Like he's full naked,
Yeah.
like shampooed his hair, like can't see what's going on and hears somebody.
And he thinks it's Elijah's character, Clint.
Yeah.
But it's not. Casey, sorry. Casey,
Yeah.
my bad. And he's like, Casey, is that you? And she appears out of nowhere. And this is at the point in the movie I'm like, what?
It was definitely, it felt kind of out of place at first.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, super creepy. She comes wandering in. She can't really talk. and just kind of like lunges at him.
Well, she's trying to warn him, and she's like, they're going to get everybody, kind of thing. And it makes sense later why we see her in the shower, but it doesn't right now because, in fact, just reading this now, I'm like, oh, I get it because it was hot water.
Right.
And when she's in hot water, like her scalp comes off and she starts to kind of like melt like a slug.
She was like decomposing.
Yeah, kind of like a slug when you pour like salt on it or something.
Right.
But her scalp like comes off in his hands, and he yells at Casey like, "Get help! Get help!"
Yeah.
And then they're in let's see.
Well, and then they're in the principal's office.
Yes.
And like the vice principal is like talking to them, and is like, "Hey, like we didn't want anybody to know this,
But she has cancer.
But she has cancer, right? So that's why like her hair fell off and
exactly.
And all that.
And they're talking to Stan at this point, but Casey's looking out the window and he's got his camera because we see Coach Williams just staring at him, and he's sitting in the field and the sprinklers are on and he's like soaking wet,
right?
And he's just staring at him, and it's really creepy.
Yeah, because he's got his arms crossed and he's just staring straight.
Yeah,
like totally
dripping
unaffected.
wet.
Yeah.
Dripping wet. It's just whoa. So anyway, now we see Miss Burke. She approaches Zeke at his trunk about selling drugs, and I definitely got a vibe.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's definitely a vibe. Now, did you think it was her hitting on him or him hitting on her?
I think it probably started with him, and then she reciprocated.
Think so? Did you think anything happened between them?
Not yet.
Pre-movie? No, I meant like pre the movie.
Right.
Because remember, here was my thought. After like thinking about it, he's repeating the grade because she even says that if you applied yourself, you would have been out of here. I had a weird thought that maybe he failed on purpose.
Oh, so he could stay there with her.
And also too, because he was making money.
Right.
And his parents are super rich. They even say that like they're always like on holiday, and he has a house to himself. I kind of think, at least, maybe I'm looking too much into it, that he failed on purpose to hang out with her.
I mean, that would make sense if he did, though.
I mean, there's been times where I've quit, where I didn't want to quit a job just because I really liked working with people. Mm-hmm. Like many a time where I'm like, I could be doing so much better. Like I worked at Starbucks for 8 years.
Okay.
And I could have left. Oh, not 8 years. Sorry, 6 years. But I really liked the people I was working with. Now, it wasn't like a crush or anything. It was like I just really liked, you know, like Gary, and I really like David, and I really like Aristotle. And so I was like, I'm not looking for a better job.
With Aristotle?
Aristotle Sacramento was his name.
Whoa.
And his mom, Annabelle Sacramento. Oh my God, she was hot, dude. Dude, Asian don't raisin. Let's put that away, dude. Anyway. So, anyway, that's kind of what I got from this. And then we have this really weird thing. She's like, you're selling dope out of your car. And he's like, I'm a one-stop pharmacy. Do you need anything? I got laxatives. I got this. And then he goes, I got condoms, Magnum size,
cherry
flavor. And she's like, just stop it.
Right?
And
like, now you're just being rude.
Yeah. So anyway, that's like our scene that was like.
But you could tell there was like an undertone that.
Definitely.
She kind of wanted the cherry flavor.
We even get to that later. So now we have Casey and Delilah, right? They go snooping around the teacher's lab because Casey is like a photographer. And apparently him and Delilah kind of like work together, seeing how she's like the editor-in-chief.
Right.
So they go snooping through teacher's lounge. And apparently they do this like every single year to try to get dirt on anything, you know, they can. And this is when, they find the flask and they go, it's old news. It doesn't matter, you know, and they're looking around. And then finally, Miss Olsen and Coach Williams enter, right? So they go hide in the closet and they're just sitting there talking and they're just pounding water again. And it's like, so how are we doing? Well, half the faculty is secured. Mm-hmm. What about the students? Well, we haven't really started that, only a percentage, right? And then at this point, the body falls of Miss. Fuck, what's her name?
No. What happens is
sorry, my bad.
The nurse comes in,
Oh, yes.
And needs to take her medicine and all that.
Selma Hayek's character.
Right. And so C-1000, the principal, takes the opportunity to have her join them and like hold her down. And then Casey and Delilah kind of freak out and they end up knocking over the corpse of Miss Berman.
And when they hold her down, they put one of those mollusk things, those little pupas, in her ear.
Yeah.
And I think it comes out of his mouth or something, or do they?
Yeah. It comes out of his mouth and goes into her ear.
And it's a creepy scene. I don't know what it is, but things going to ears, teeth, or eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Really bother me.
Very much so.
So, yeah. And then, and also, too, when they kind of reproduce this way, like you see every vein in their face kind of just protrude.
It starts twitching and everything. Yeah.
And it looks like, oh, God, what was I going to say? It looks like the end of Total Recall. Where they just get all like they look like they're going through what they call anoxia. When your blood boils when you're underwater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, the body falls down. They escape, and then they're stopped by Miss Drake, the principal Drake. Right.
Right.
Now the cops are called, but it's only Casey. Delilah's split.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just fucking realize this till now.
What?
Remember at the end when they do the test? Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized that. So they must have got her during this point. Anyway, so Casey and Delilah, they escape. Miss Drake called, the cops called, right? And they switched the body out with a CPR doll. And then they talked to the cops away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But his name is, they never even say his name. I just read his name badge. His name is Officer Campbell, the African-American officer.
Oh,
so
nice.
she gets called into the office and they shut the blinds. And then he comes out and he's all like stoic and shit. And we're like, got him.
Yep.
Got him. And after that, Casey's getting grounded. And his parents like destroy his internet, and
which sucks that
ripping up books.
His dad, aka Shooter McGavin.
Exactly, I knew that too. I was like, that Shooter, he eats pieces of shit for breakfast.
He is also a dick in this movie.
Yeah, they start ripping up books. They're talking about him going to therapy, all this other stuff. And in fact, he's like, "Yeah, I should go to therapy just to get out of the school."
Yeah,
and then the mom goes, "What about his porno?" And he goes, "No more choking the bishop for a while there." And then here goes the weird thing. And it goes to nothing. So maybe there's a deleted scene. He gets on his computer and starts typing, and then like a little robot activates.
Oh,
remember that?
Yeah.
And then nothing comes of it.
Which you're like, is that, you figure maybe it was foreshadowing for something?
Nothing happens with it.
But there's definitely no other robots. Yeah.
So they should have edited that out or had something to go with it. Like, because I thought he was going to use it to like communicate to the outside world, but nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So anyway, then he escapes through the window, right? And he sees, the three teachers out there, and he panics. And then his dad comes out with the porn. And he's like, "Get in there. Like, what the fuck are you doing?" Right. And then the teachers are gone. But then we see the teachers in the house.
Yeah.
But we never see the parents again either. It's like they set up this whole thing that never comes to fruition.
There's got to be some sort of deleted scene somewhere.
Or you could have just cut that whole part out and made the running time smooth. I don't know why they did that. I really don't. But anyway, he's grounded. And he's like grounded indefinitely until he sees anything. So anyway, now we see the whole faculty and they're all in. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. The next day we see Casey and, he's talking to Delilah and they're in his crying room.
Yeah.
And she's kind of whatevering it, at this point. And this is... I didn't get it when I was watching because I thought she was going to be like clean.
Yeah.
Obviously, she was gotten,
Right.
Because she's like, "What the fuck are we going to do? This is stupid. This is a stupid idea." Kind of like playing it off. And but you think because it's that he's the nerd kid and the cheerleader. But then if you think back to when they were in the closet, they had a moment.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you could be a cool girl when you're not being a bitch all the time. And then they kind of have like a moment where they might kiss or something.
Yep. He definitely sniffs her hair.
Oh, dude, I don't know. Okay, you can call that creepy all you want. I thought it was hot. Sniffing a girl's hair, pretty hot. If she says yes, girl power, feminism. You got to ask for it. Just saying. Anyway, so the faculty's in there and they're like fucking totally hydrating, and they're all like, you see the coffee maker is spotless clean.
Right.
There's no food. I think they even opened the fridge at a certain point and it's just all water in there, like bottled water.
Yeah.
And, it's just kind of like foreshadowing. We obviously know they're all gotten. At least anyone with half a brain would think so, right? Now the history teacher, not drinking booze, and he comes in and he's all business. And he goes, here goes today's assignment. I want you all to write down every member of your family in a family tree. This is going to be the history of your family. And the typical stoner guy from Clueless goes, is this going to be on the test? And he goes, this is the test. So anyway, Zeke now violently gets dressed down by Miss Burke in front of everybody. No more glasses.
Yeah.
Hot as fuck.
It was like, she's all that. She went from the nerdy chick to like the super hot popular girl.
I'm sorry, and she's all that. She was hotter before she got the makeover, but that's just me. But yeah, I thought the same exact. I even wrote that down. She's all that. Okay. Not to be sexist or adjective, girl power, feminism. But who do you think is hotter, Miss Drake or Miss Burke?
Oh.
I know.
I gotta go Drake.
Also, I will say this as well. Every person that gets infected in this movie, they look way better than what they did.
True. Yeah.
Like you could tell that Jason Patrick, before every single shoot, now I didn't look this up, but you could just tell, probably did about 20 push-ups before every shot after.
Oh, just to make himself
more swole.
Yeah.
And then they definitely did way better makeup because they all look a lot younger.
Yeah.
And, especially Miss Olsen. Because that bitch looks like she fucking smells and hasn't washed her hair in years. And then afterwards, she actually looks presentable. By the way, I thought my first watch through that it was Miss Olsen was like the...
Yo, yeah.
You too?
Oh, no.
You thought it was Miss Drake?
Or I thought it was Miss... No, I didn't think it was Miss Drake. I thought it was C-1000.
I thought that too, but someone comes up to him in the beginning. So anyway, going on. So what the fuck? Yeah, he gets stressed out by Miss Burke and about selling drugs. And she's like, if I ever see you doing any shit again, like I'm the authority figure, don't even try, kind of thing. And everyone's like, whoa. So now all these kids are aligned, because, let's see. They're in Mr. Oh, wait, no. We forgot about the part where Mary Beth goes in with Zeke.
To the storage room.
Because he's the first one that actually gives her the time of day.
Right.
And so they go to the storage room and he's like collecting all these beakers and test tubes and stuff and
to make his product.
And Bunsen burners. And I wondered why, but now like reading my notes, I'm like, oh, it actually makes sense because he's the first person to give it the time of day. Everyone kind of has their own little cliques.
Yeah.
So they start, kind of getting into it. And then he lights a cigarette, of course. And she's like, so you're borrowing? And he goes, let's just say I'm stealing.
He's like, I prefer to call it stealing.
And then, but he says, so if anyone busts in, just say we were making out. And then they kiss.
Yeah.
Now, there's something about this scene that bothers me, but I'll get into it later.
Okay.
So they start dropping eaves now because in the next room is the science lab, Mr. Furlong's science lab. And they're kind of talking about like invasion of the body snatchers. What about if this is all real? Stokey. Stokey doesn't really want to believe at first, but she's like willing because she's finally getting attention for the first time.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, she even says that she used lesbian, she's a lesbian. She tells people that as a shield because she doesn't want people to get close to her.
Right.
And yeah. Anyway, now that Casey and her are kind of outcast, they kind of get along, and then we have
Delilah.
We have kind of like this crew kind of coming together in a way where they're like, something's going on. What the fuck is going on, right? And then enter Mary Beth and Zeke, and he comes in and gives them a scare, like, whoa, and because Stokey and Casey were talking about all these science fiction books, and Casey has like this idea. He goes, what about if it's a warning? Like all these movies that come out, all these books are coming out. Maybe it's a way to indoctrinate us so we don't believe it when it actually is happening.
Right, we don't freak out.
Yeah, who's to say that Spielberg himself is an alien, or all these people that wrote all this stuff? And they start talking about, okay, well, how would they spread?
Yeah.
And Casey's like, well, we did find this weird thing in the science class, so let's go in there and see if it's there. And it's not there. And that's kind of where all the group meet up. And then finally, Mr. Furlong comes in, and they ask, hey, where's the mollusk thing?
Right. And he's like, oh, yeah, like I sent it to university.
And then he locks the door and he goes, guys, you should probably take your seats. It'll be a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
And then, he kind of gets like grabby and pushy. And so Zeke takes a drafter's blade. If you guys don't know what that is, the paper cutter, the part of that's actually called a drafter's blade. He rips it off, and this is like one of the coolest shots in the movie. The way he rips it off is like filmed at like a weird under-up angle.
Right.
And he swings and he chops off his fingers, but when he does, you see those red fiber strands.
Yeah.
And they start growing back like immediately, and then the fingers just like and like run off, like they're regenerating into
another thing.
Exactly. So then, everyone's like, I don't know what to fucking do. They're all kind of in a panic, and he gets on top of Zeke and starts kind of like overpowering him. And then Zeke pulls out one of his drug pens, and stabs him in the eye.
Brutal.
And like I said, just like pouring salt on a slug.
Yeah.
At first, you think, oh, nothing's going to happen, and all of a sudden he starts like foaming at the mouth, like you put Alka-Seltzer in your mouth. It's probably actually how they did this.
It's probably exactly how they did it, yeah.
And he kind of just keels over, right? And
right.
They don't know what the fuck, So they all leave, and as they're like, okay, what do we do? And it's like, okay, let's calmly make our way out to the car.
Yeah.
And so they do. And they could just notice all the students are just like watching him. If you guys ever seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it's kind of like that. They're just,
they're all staring at him, and they're all drinking water.
All of them. And the water bottles are bigger and bigger and bigger. Because you don't notice it early in. They have a couple like of those like 12 ounce. Now they have like the big fucking like crystal geyser.
Right.
And they make their way out to the car, and they get in the GTO, right? And they start driving, but before the football team starts to stop, like, "Hey, Stan, where are you going? You're not gonna play with us tonight? What's going on?" and then Zeke goes, "Get in the fucking car, Jesus Christ, dude, get in the fucking car." Now, lucky it's a GTO because they all fit in there, and Mary Beth's there too, but she's just not kind of like saying anything.
Right.
So they all go to Zeke's house because they try to leave town, but they can't because the cops have it all roadblocked, like they're quarantined in. And then they really know something's going on. So they go to Zeke's like garage, which is a meth lab.
Which, real quick, I thought it was interesting that like this like small town, there was only one way out. And right, it's like middle America. It's not like there's water on three sides and this is the only bridge. Like, really, there was one road.
Yeah, they're not
town.
They're not landlocked.
Right.
So, yeah, and also, too, it's the farm belt. It's all flat.
Yeah. But yeah, so they go to Zeke's house, and of course his parents are gone. And they roll up, and there's like the garage and back. He opens it up, turns on the light, and yeah, it's a huge, basically drug lab.
Full on,
yeah.
Now, I forgot who did, but someone grabbed one of the samples. Maybe it was his finger or something.
Yeah, I think it was Casey grabbed it.
Yeah, there you go. So they start doing little experiments on it, and they put it with, he's got like a pet mouse.
Right.
And it doesn't do anything until they get it wet, and then it just takes over the pet mouse, and the pet mouse just starts like going for water. Right? Mm-hmm. And then they notice something's up with the mouse, so he snapped its neck, and they take it out and they cut it open.
Dissect it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I mentioned evasion of body snatchers. In fact, they even mention it in this movie.
They do, yeah, a few times.
But what they do not mention, and this is a nod to one of my favorite Cronenberg movies, The Thing. John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Because they do the Thing test in here. You remember in The Thing with the blood? They take the blood samples and they put it to heat to see which one reacts.
Oh, right.
Remember that scene? They do exactly that, but now it's with the drug. So they figure out, because this drug, they go, what is actually a drug? And we get to find out what is it. It's like no dose plus like baking soda and household chemicals. So he's basically making powder meth.
Yeah.
Instead of crystal meth. And they have to each snort it.
Yeah.
In order to see who's got it, because it's a major diuretic. Now, this is one of the things that got it minus points in my book.
Uh-oh.
They could have just used salt.
Yeah, but that's the drugs. That's the tie-in.
I know it's the
tie.
I know it's the dosis machina. It's the golden suitcase. But I'm just saying, when I was watching this movie, I'm like, they could have just put salt in their mouth and,
done that. Yeah, true.
But I mean, it wouldn't make it as dramatic because salt is abundant everywhere.
Right, and the drugs, you gotta, snort it and everything.
There's another huge continuity error I'm going to talk about later, but
which I thought it was great that this is one of the few movies where drugs save lives.
I thought that too. But remember, this did come out a couple of years after Half Baked, and it did make a lot of money.
Yeah, true.
So they're all doing the, thing, and everyone has an excuse not to do it, to build up tension. You know? Like Casey's like, I've never done drugs. I never want to do drugs. And he goes, do it. And then, Stan's like, I'm
an athlete. I don't use drugs.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. And then Mary Beth's like, I'm allergic. I can't even take aspirin. And everyone's got their fucking excuse. So finally, Zeke does it. I think either first or second. He goes, we'll do it at the same time or something like that.
Yeah.
And then apparently it doesn't really affect him. So, even though he says, I don't got high on my own supply, you could tell he's
definitely got
done it before.
Resistance. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you take this, apparently you just get like stone goofy.
Right.
Instead of methy, which I thought was interesting.
I think it's a lot better for you probably than meth.
That being said, if you do a lot of cocaine, you do get a little giggly. And you just talk really fast.
I would imagine.
And you're like, dude, we should fucking totally go to Florida and open a board shop. and we'll, we'll sell sandwiches there too. That's a great idea. No one's had a board shop with sandwiches. So, anyway, then finally we see Delilah take it and she's infected. And I didn't think it was going to be Delilah. I thought it was going to be Stan, but now looking back, it kind of makes sense how she disappeared.
Yeah.
So anyway, she runs off and the student driver car picks her up.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. A little bit, So now we go to the big game. This is like kind of our grand finale, if you will, or at least the setup for it. And our heroes are like, look, even if we escape, they took over the school in one day.
Yeah.
This will be, probably all throughout America within a week.
Right.
Because they replicate so fucking fast. Now, we see the players just beating the shit out of the other team, right? And the coach is super happy, and he's like, take his fucking head off, And each time they tackle somebody, they'll drop one in his ear.
Yeah.
So now both teams are infected, right? And, yeah, so it's like it's happening so fast. And then we see Miss Drake, right? She catches the crew in the gym. And now remember, they know that this drug works, but they only have a little bit of it. And,
right.
And then when Miss Drake comes in, they have a pistol that obviously Zeke has because he's a fucking drug dealer.
Right.
And I did like this movie because it is a 6-shooter revolver, and I always have to count I'm like Archer. I have to count how many bullets.
Yeah.
They only use 6.
Nice. Okay.
This is the only movie I've ever we're about to cover another movie where they have like an unlimited amount of ammo. And we'll get into that later. So it rhymes with Shadow Morale. So we see, Zeke fucking says like, all right, Miss Drake, blah, 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 give it up. We know it's you. You're the head vampire. Because they have this idea that if you kill the main parasite, all the other ones will succumb and they'll die, right?
Right.
And they get a volleyball net and wrap her up and they start interrogating her and she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Or and they fucking brain her. Zeke shoots her dead between the eyes. And then, she gets up again and they're like, oh shit, we were right. We were
alive.
Right. It's alive. And then instead of using one of the pens, Mary Beth grabs the whole supply and pours it over her like a snail.
Yeah.
It makes sense now in retrospect.
It totally does.
But at first I'm like, you stupid bitch. You shot her in the head. Just sprinkle.
Just put the pen in the wound.
Yeah, exactly.
You could do that.
Yeah. But anyway, she throws the whole fucking thing, and it's enough to at least kill, I don't know, because like she's got like a full-on half beaker, which is probably about 8 ounces of the stuff, and it only takes about half an ounce. So she wasted about 16 doses at minimum.
Right.
Anyway.
But it's cool because like the principal has the whole like Indiana Jones
melting
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Anyway, so now they're like, is that the last of it? And then Zeke is like, well, I think they have like 2 more. And he's like, but there's more in my car.
Right.
So we're going to have to go get it. So Casey and Zeke go out. Right. No, Stan goes out to check on.
Stan goes out.
Yeah, you do that. I need to piss like a racehorse. You do that real quick, and then I'll come back in.
All right.
If you need my notes, and you can read them, they're right here.
So Stan goes out to the football team to see who's infected or not. They think the coach might be the head alien creature. So he gets one of the last pens that they got and goes out. And the rest of them are just kind of hanging out, talking, trying to figure out how they're going to figure out what to do. And then you see Stan go up and talk with the team. And they're just all kind of like semi happy to see him. You definitely get a weird vibe. They're infected. And then Stan just shows back up outside of the rest of the group, outside of the gymnasium. And he's like, come on, let me back in. Like, oh my God, they're chasing me. Da, da, da. And they're like, no, like you got to take the test. And he's like, well, let me in and I'll take it. And they're like, no. You got to take it before you get in. So they have one last pen with the special serum in there. And they give it to him, and he just picks it up, and he pretends like he's going to snort it, and he pours it out and just starts laughing at them. And then they freak out and run away, and they lock themselves in a room and try and figure out, like, okay, like Zeke is like, I have more of this stuff in my trunk. We just got to go. And so Casey doesn't really want to go, but it's really him or Stocky, and she's not going to go. So they make their way out to the parking lot to get to Zeke's trunk.
Yeah, but they have to hide underneath. I'm back. Got to stay hydrated, people, just like this movie. So they go back, and they're both underneath, and then Casey kind of dawns on him, and he goes, wait a minute, why does it take 2 of us? And he goes, because you're the decoy. Now, remember, he's a really good runner.
Right.
So they kind of split up at this point, and Casey runs off, and the whole football team is after him, right?
Right.
And he's doing a good job. There's a bunch of school buses because obviously this is the big game. So there's, everyone came out, and he's like rolling under him and hiding, and he's doing a good job. And they kind of see him, and he runs inside the school bus. And Delilah's there, and she's like, we could be together. You don't have to play your role anymore. You don't have to be the nerd. You have no idea how great this feels. And all that good stuff. And then, as she's doing this, they're kind of like zombieing they're kind of rocking it and everything else. But he goes out the top emergency exit, barely escaping impending doom.
Right.
And meanwhile, we see Zeke. He opens up the trunk, and when it's open, he looks down. he's got the trunk up and he goes, "Hello, Miss Burke." Right.
Right.
And then she's, oh my God. I would have stayed in school till I was 23. She is like, wow, hot during this. She's wearing like a skimpy red dress and like a black not even an overcoat.
Like a blazer sort of thing?
I don't, she blaze me anytime she wants. I'll blaze her. Jesus.
But yeah, so Zeke is looking for the pens, and Miss Burke is flirting with him.
And she says,
like that.
"I think I want something cherry flavored."
Cherry flavored, yeah.
That was the best line in the movie.
And Zeke is kind of keeping the car between them and notices the pens.
There's like 3 or 4 of them on like the not center console, but
no, on the floor, the passenger floor.
Floorboard, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, "I got something for you. Let me just get it." And they hop in the car, and for whatever reason, his door is locked, but hers is not.
Yeah.
The passenger is not, rather.
Yeah. I don't know why, but...
I don't know. Well, I mean, but they get in the car at the same time. So they kind of get in like a scuffle while he's driving the car, and he's like... He does really smart where he's fishtailing the car on purpose. Now, remember, I don't know if you've seen My Cousin Vinny, but cars back then didn't have positive traction.
Right.
So... the car is super fishtailing, and she can't really get a grip on him.
Yeah, yeah. She keeps getting tossed in the back seat and everything. Yeah.
And then we see him, wear your seatbelts, kids. We see him go, "It's my only way." He fucking revs it up, and he's redlining and just slams into the corner bumper of back corner of school bus.
Right.
And she goes fucking flying out and get decapped, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets out of the car. He grabs the pens. I think there's 3 of them.
3 or 4, yeah.
There's 5 of them. There's exactly 5, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Now, meanwhile, did you touch upon Stan coming back yet?
Yes.
Okay, so you got about that. Did you touch upon Mary Beth with Stokey yet?
No.
Okay, we'll get into that in a second because it doesn't even happen yet. I was just making sure for continuity. We see Miss Burke, Burke, yeah.
Okay.
So she got decapped, but we see her head like walking with tentacles.
Which is a reference to
The Thing.
The Thing, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of thing, even though they don't mention The Thing, there's a lot of Thing references, which I do know that was one of Robert Rodriguez's favorite movie.
It was kind of a thing in this movie.
Yeah. And her body is like looking for it to put it back on her head, which it's super comical, but it's cool. You know, it's like it's a to end, not end, but kind of like a haha moment.
Right. Lighten the mood a little bit.
Exactly.
There, yeah.
And he books it out of there. Now at this point, this is where we see Mary Beth talking to Stokey, and she's like, poor Stan, this and that and the other, and like what's gonna happen? And she's like, you know what? I bet you he feels better. And she's kind of like seducing her,
right?
Like maybe we should just give up. Maybe it's not just a bad thing. Like, everyone seems happier,
right?
And then we're like, oh, you bitch. Now, remember I was talking to you about how The Breakfast Club, there was no version of her in The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
If you think about it, she is the odd person out.
Right,
She is the new person. Akron's Razor, it's her the whole fucking time.
Right.
But this is the coolest thing. I don't know if you noticed this, but when she's shot, you see like water tentacles as her shadow.
Oh, yeah.
Did you notice that?
Right.
And it starts at this point. So Casey walks in, he ditches them all, and right as this happens, like she starts attacking, like, or chasing, Stokey.
Yeah.
Stokey jumps in the water. Bad idea. Because when Mary Beth jumps in the water, she becomes like the Kraken.
Dude, yeah.
She becomes
giant tentacle monster.
Yeah, she's like 12 feet long.
Right.
And these huge tentacles, and you can't outswim this thing. It's used to water. Now, here goes a continuity error. Swimming pools need either two things: chlorine or salt water.
Yeah.
And then to clean it, you need shock. All of those things are diuretics.
True.
Now, chlorine, a little bit, will dry out your skin. Getting stabbed in the eye with like a super drug, obviously, but you would think that she wouldn't like it as much as she does because it seems like she thrives in it. Like she feeds off it. And suspending disbelief, I get it, but
I mean, it's still a pool of
water. Yeah.
Right. So, so Maribeth transformed, jumps in the pool. Casey and Stokey are running around the pool, and they try and like get around, and Maribeth jumps out and grabs
Stokey, and she fucking hits her head and face.
Right.
And when I saw this, I'm like, oh, dude, she's fucked.
Right.
In fact, I thought she was fucked. And then, but Casey runs out, right? And we see Stokey appear outside, and she's not unfazed, but she's not dead. And we're like, okay, cool. And then they meet back in the locker room.
Yeah.
And Zeke's there. And I think Stokey is locked up in the. Hold on.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, hold on. Let me read. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Maribeth gets out of the pool, and as she gets out, she transforms back into her human form,
but naked.
Hello.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm usually not into blondes.
Okay.
After BB Newirth and Miss Birch, she's my number 3. Because I mean, I'm like, damn. And you know,
when they remastered this movie, there's definitely a lot more details. Than there were before.
I saw this I didn't see it on Amazon. I saw it on YouTube.
Okay.
And I saw it on a laptop. And laptops usually a little condensed.
Yeah.
Still enough to make things wiggle.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And so she's walking back to the locker room, kind of monologuing.
Yeah, and here's where we really get the tentacle shadows. And this is really, like I said, like the Diablo, like wings,
right,
if you will, because every step she walks, there's more like black shadow tendrils that take over every step, and it actually moves like water.
It does, yeah.
Which is the coolest effect in this movie. When I saw this, I'm like, this movie is so well done. Yeah, like it went from kind of like 90s cheese to I'm fucking invested, and this movie has become like real like monster scary horror.
Yeah.
So this is when Casey and Zeke come in, right? And Stoke is locked in the equipment locker, right? And then now Zeke gets tossed around like big time.
Oh, yeah.
And Casey's kind of hiding around, you know?
A little mouser.
Yeah. And then we see this is the naked tentacle shot, right? She turns back into her Kraken form and attacks. Casey kind of leads her under. Oh, wait. No, not yet. So Zeke gets his ass kicked. We think he's going to be the hero, and he's reaching for, you know,
the pens. Yeah.
But what we didn't know is there was a handoff because Casey actually picks him up when he gets thrown around.
Yeah.
He picks up 3 of them.
Zeke gets knocked out, and Casey picks him up. Yeah.
And you're thinking that Zeke's going to be like the hero, but no, she follows Casey. Now, Casey, using his superior intellect, kind of gets to the basketball court and is kind of like, you know, duking and dodging. And then he activates the
bleacher control.
The bleacher control to make it condense.
Yeah.
And he goes underneath and he fucking traps her in it.
Yeah.
And
fucking genius move right there.
And then she's going pretty fucking fast, but not as fast as she is in water. She gets trapped and she like acid spits. Well, it's not acid, but like hurls all these mollusks at him, and they start going in his skin. They don't even need to go in his eyes because maybe she's like the queen. They're like more powerful or whatever. And a lot of aliens in this too.
Yeah.
And anyway, she's, you know.
And like the effect of when they were going into his face
was great.
Was fantastic. Like you see the skin bubbling up.
Did you notice too? This was a practical effect with a head sticking out.
Yeah.
It was not CGI. It was only CGI when she was underneath the water, but it's underwater, so you don't really notice as much. And then he grabs 3 pens and stabs her in like the alien eye thing.
Yeah.
And at first you think it's not going to work because that's when she spits.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, maybe she's too powerful. But then like she starts turning ashen white. And
right.
Finally, she kind of just dries out and dies. And you see the things in his face kind of just, you know, go away. Now, what I failed to mention is that when Casey actually goes up to Stokey, when she's in there, she got infected as well in the pool. But that kind of matters not. But so everyone lives.
Yeah.
Because it says 1 month later.
Aside from Edward Furlong.
Oh, shit. You're right. Oh, and Mary Beth.
And, well, Mary Beth is the alien, so I don't know if that really counts.
She also tells about, you kind of have some sympathy for, A, because she's naked, and B, because she's telling the story about how she lived on an all-water planet.
Yeah.
And, like, they ran out of resource, or it got too hot or something.
Right.
And then I remembered when she was saying that's the reason why the old teacher that they said who had cancer, because she went into the hot water.
Yeah.
And hot water dried her out.
Right.
So it was at that point I realized it. So the cool thing about this movie is it is a watch twice.
Yeah.
You know, watching it once, you're like, okay, well, especially me. I came into it going, this movie's going to be dumb. And then after watching it, I'm like, oh shit, this is a rewatcher. Now, I didn't rewatch it twice, even though because I rented it. And now I actually want a physical copy because it's worth owning. I'll get into why I want physical copies because Without You, I did make an episode. Because I saw something online, and I'll show you off air because I don't want you to wait for it. But I'm telling you right now, if you didn't hear that episode, if you like a movie, buy a physical copy. If you do not own a DVD or a Blu-ray player, buy one now. Already, Samsung said they're not going to make them. Sony is not going to make them anymore. You have to buy the PlayStation to get them. And their new PlayStation, when it comes out, the 6 and even the 5 Elite, they're not going to have any digital or it's all going to be digital media. If you want to enjoy your movies, buy them now because it's going to be extinct very, very soon. All right? It is. It is. Because companies that own these fucking movies are going to be streaming only and they're going to edit them. And you're not going to be able to enjoy the movie that you grew up with. And you're not even going to fucking notice it because they do it apparently 15 seconds at a time. Like,
interesting.
Yes. So you don't notice. It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Right? Oh, we're not doing anything. You should own this on digital. But we are. So this is definitely a watch twice. Now, our 1 month later is our resolution. Okay, so it's totally topsy-turvy, right? So Zeke's now on the football team, even though in between plays he lights up a cigarette.
A cigarette, yeah.
And he's also banging his teacher.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
I thought that was awesome.
Way
to go, dude.
God damn, I love Zeke.
The coach is back to being an asshole.
By the way, that would never fly.
Oh, in today's? No, never
way.
Could not do that. Yeah.
Do you remember we used to play this game on Slime Wreck Radio called Guilty or Nice?
I don't remember that.
Okay, so it was a game we played where you would show, I would look up scandals, like where a teacher sleeps with a student, and I'd read the court case, and I'm like, so do you think she's guilty or nice? And then I'd show her picture, but before I'd read what happened, and then you'd go, she's guilty or nice. This is definitely a nice.
Yeah.
And the coach is back to normal. And he's like, Zeke, just because you're the new guy doesn't mean you could fuck off. And he's like the head quarterback now.
Right.
Stan is now like academically, I'm not going to say gifted, but he actually cares about his studies. Yeah.
And he's with Stokey.
Yeah, he's with Stokey, and then Casey and Delilah are together.
Right.
And now meanwhile, all the paparazzi are following him around to like, did the boy save the world? Is this a hoax?
Yeah.
And it's funny because, Delilah wants to be a journalist, and now she's like part of the news.
Yeah.
So it all kind of wraps up very nice. And like I said, man, I thought this movie was going to be dumb. I watch it and I'm like, fuck, that's why I'm giving it a solid 82. I guarantee if I rewatch this movie, I'm going to like it even more because I bet you there's so many little things. This is why I take 10 or like 9 to, because a movie's 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Each page I write down is about 10 minutes. So I usually write 9 pages. And I'm telling you, man, reviewing this movie, just going through my notes, I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't notice that. Oh, fuck, I didn't notice that.
Oh, okay.
Because I was just documenting what was happening. Now I really want to rewatch this movie. In fact, I might even buy it on Blu-ray, or another good place, go to eBay. You could usually buy lots of movies, LOT, meaning like someone will be selling like 12 movies and it'll be like $9 plus shipping.
Right.
Definitely recommend you do that. But anyway, Great movie. Great suggestion, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, after talking about it, do you want to raise your 72 up a little bit?
Yeah, I go from 75 to 80.
So
Another
right now it's
5%
rocking
bump.
81 then.
Yeah.
It's funny how this whole podcast is about me talking movies up and people go, you know what? You're right. I forgot about that part. All right. From all of us at the Night Party, you know what? Thank you for listening. We love you all. Member patreon.com/knifepartypod. For only $1, you can join the party. For $5, you get Slime Wreck Radio. And for $20, you get Stop the Bike. Our first member of Stop the Bike, H1N1 Zombies, actually sat down in the theater, in the cutting room floor we have a fucking projector. We're looking at it right now.
Yeah, buddy.
And it's an all-day event. You get to sit down. If you're not here, obviously, we'll do something on Skype or whatever. Sit down, watch the movie with me, and then after we do a long-form conversation, not like a 50 or an hour. We do like a full-on, like this is like a 2-hour fucking chat about it. And it's totally worth it, and you get to pick out the movie. He chose Night of the Living Dead. And it came out in 68. So on episode 68, guess what we're doing?
There we go.
Shout out to H1N1 Zombies so much. Also, he's got a TikTok and he's got fucking tons of followers.
Wow. Okay.
Tons of followers. He's been promoting us too. So shout out to you. Also, remember, if you're an Apple user and you can't afford $1 for whatever reason, I know Apple's expensive. Go to nightpartypod.podbean.com. You're probably not going to see too much of us on YouTube because they keep pulling us out of all of our episodes. We're at I think it's going to be episode 60 or some shit like that.
Yeah.
We've only got, I think 10 up.
Oh, wow.
So they keep pulling us over and over and over again. So that's a free app that you can get, and also a free website. And I did design the website. It's not great, but I'm technologically regressed. So there you go. And remember to like, review, subscribe. It helps us out. I don't know how, but that's what all the other cool kids are doing. So we're going to say it too.
Let's do it.
All right. So you know what? From all that, just please be kind and rewind. Anything from you?
No, I'm going to go return those videotapes.
Okay, cool. All right. We'll see you later, everybody.